You're listening to Talk Daredevil, the official podcast of the Save Daredevil campaign. Hello, Daredevil fans. Welcome to a new episode of Talk Daredevil, the official podcast of the Save Daredevil campaign. I am Kristina, and joining me today are...
Hi, I'm Rhiannon.
Hi, I'm Ayesha.
Hey, I'm Shelby.
And today we're talking about what it would take to power up Daredevil for the MCU. Now, I'm sure this doesn't come as a spoiler for anyone, but we just want to make sure that anyone listening to this has already watched Spider-Man No Way Home. We're recording this podcast on January 8th, 2022, and it's been just over a month since Kevin Feige announced that Charlie Cox is going to be the MCU's Daredevil. And over 3 weeks ago, Spider-Man No Way Home came out, and we all saw Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock make his first appearance in the official MCU. So yes, he's back as Daredevil. So we just wanted to talk today. It seems like characters in the MCU, they're pretty powerful. And we're talking about the possibility that now that Daredevil is showing up in films, he's been rumored to show up in other projects, it's reasonable to expect that they might want to power him up. And we're just going to talk today about what we think that might look like, what we want it to look like, and even in some cases, what we don't want it to look like.
So I think one of the first things that we all were thinking about as we started thinking about how Daredevil could be powered up in the MCU is the same way that he was in the TV show, that he could be powered up through technology, such as the suit that he wears and the gear that he uses. So I think a good place for us to start with this is just sort of examples of how he powered up in the show. Sort of see how he's been powered up in the past, and then maybe talk about the trajectory that he could take in the future.
Yeah, so in the show, we saw a very natural progression where all during season 1, Matt was getting torn to shreds. He was bleeding and bloody, and Claire kept bugging him. You got to get some armor. He kept saying, no, I don't want to. And in the end, of course, he did. And when that happened, we saw this kind of very natural, organic type of power up. If you look at season 1's hallway fight and compare it to season 2's stairwell fight, one of the reasons why Matt does so much better in season 2 is he is wearing the suit. He has that extra level of protection. And then we see that all come apart again in season 3 when he loses the suit. He's back to fighting in basically sweats. One of the reasons that Dex is able to get up after Karen, I have to quote one of my favorite YouTubers, Married to the Real, Tasha, when she watched the episode, said, yes, hit him with Jesus. So after Karen hits Dex with Jesus and knocks him over the balcony and he falls down, he's able to get up. And it's not because he's so badass, it's because he's wearing a suit. So I think that could be a very organic way for them to go with this is, of course, last time we saw him, he didn't have a suit. We're all assuming he's going to get one. It really makes sense for him to get one. So that could be a very natural way to do that.
I'm just going to say, I love how in season 2, it starts off with him getting shot in the head by Frank. So
A good reason to change the helmet.
Yeah,
Get a new
right.
one.
I also liked how sort of along the way we got to see how he got the suit. Like, it was so important to those season 1 writers that we understood how he managed to get a really awesome suit. It was like a whole subplot of the season, which is something that I also hope they keep with. You know, if he suddenly has a new suit, did he go back to Melvin? Is Melvin Potter still around? Is there a new suit maker? We've been joking, some of us, that now that Peter Parker has a sewing machine, maybe he's making suits for all the superheroes. But I think that's in the what we hope to see, whatever the next step is. I hope we do get to see that explanation, which they have done in other series. I mean, they have explained how the suits have been coming about.
Yeah, even in Hawkeye, there were the LARPers were the ones who made the suits for Hawkeye and Kate.
So are we going to jump right into the rumor territory of where he's supposed to show up next in She-Hulk.
And what kind of
With-
suit he's gonna get?
Yeah,
The color?
kind of.
I think as long as he's showing up as a cameo or as a side character in somebody else's show, unless they give him a throwaway line or something that gives us that explanation, I don't expect them to give us the full story. That seems to be the way the MCU goes, is like somebody's in it and then eventually they get their solo property where they go back and explain things if they're going to explain anything.
Right. But as far as backstory for these side characters is concerned, even like Echo is a side character in Hawkeye, we did get some backstory for her. Like, from her childhood and how she lost her father and how she grew up. And so you don't know. Maybe they will. If he is indeed showing up as a side character, they might fill up some of the gaps from the last. Is it the pre-blip and post-blip world we're talking about? We don't even know whether was Matt blipped. Speculation is he was, and that's why Kingpin is back in power.
Yeah. So what do we want to see?
I would actually like to see more of him swinging through the city, because we got a tiny bit of it towards the end of Daredevil season 2. We just got a little bit of him swinging through the city. It looked cool. It did not look overly CGI. It looked like it was actually happening. I don't know how they did it. Maybe it was CGI, but if it was, it looked really good. And we just got teased with it a tiny bit and then it went away again. So I think that would be really cool to see, especially because it's not necessarily if it was in the comics we want to see it, because I think there's plenty of things in the comics we don't want to see. But that's kind of iconic, is him swinging through the city.
I do want to see that, but at the same time, how realistic is it going to be? There are a lot of things in the comics, like you said, and they don't always translate well in live action. So while comic accuracy is very important to a lot of us, it has to also feel true to the character on the big screen or the TV screen. I've only watched the 2003 movie once. I know we have a lot of fans for that, but there were some things done in that movie which I'm glad the show never tried to do, like, leaping from a top of a high-rise building and then nothing happening to the characters, surviving without a scratch. Like, those things, it can only happen in a comic, not a live-action movie, in my opinion.
I think we got a nice preview of what they could do with the swinging from the ropes on the television budget in Hawkeye. I know one of the big Daredevil fans that also has like an outlet, Charles Villanueva, was like, if you look at what they did with Yelena in Hawkeye, then she had some scenes where she was like rappelling down the side of a building, and he was like, it gave him hope that they could do some realistic stuff like that with Daredevil on their TV show type budgets and get some views of that. And I think looking at Hawkeye in general, I think among all of us, like what they did with Hawkeye was closer to what we would like to see with Daredevil. Like there at least was some humanity. You did have moments of people icing their wounds in some episodes and such. I mean, final episode, you don't necessarily see that same humanity, but it was closer.
Agree.
It wasn't instantaneous healing for most of the episodes, at least.
Yeah, I don't want him to suddenly be invulnerable. I don't want them to stretch his abilities to places that make no sense. I don't want him to be sitting in New York and saying, okay, I'm listening to this conversation in Paris. I want to make sure that they kind of keep that part of it consistent. I want his abilities to really remain pretty constant. And as far as a suit, how do you guys feel about getting the DD on his chest? I know it's really important. It's important to so many people. I personally don't care, but so many people want to see that DD show up on his chest.
Yeah, it's not important to me at all. But
the DD is not important, and I kind of have a good feeling about the suit because recently in all these shows, the MCU, the new suit that they've introduced have all been pretty cool for all the other characters and all, whether it was Falcon and WandaVision, maybe, I don't even know, but I can't remember that one. But all the other superhero show suits that they created, they probably will do a good job. with the new upgraded suit for Daredevil.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to butcher his name. Is it Ryan Meinerdig? I believe is how you pronounce his name. If not, I'm very sorry, sir. He designed the suit for Daredevil, and he was also designing suits for the films. So if he's still in charge of that, I've got a good feeling, because he managed to give us some really cool suits. I can't think of a single one that like I thought, oh God, that's awful.
They look similar too. They're real similar to me when you think about the Netflix shows and the MCU
The movies,
suits now.
yeah.
One thing that is kind of interesting is in the past, over the past 10 years of the MCU, when the film characters got a new suit, it was always, well, Tony Stark gave it to them. And that's gone now. So if Matt does get a new suit, they're going to have to kind of explain where he got it, because it wasn't given to him by Stark. Who knows? Maybe by then Reed Richards will be there. I don't know.
Yeah, Matt just has to get Melvin out of jail.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That
he has
is
to
my
go
hope.
defend him. Yeah, and
Or find Peter Parker.
oh yeah,
He'll sew you one. Totally.
they'll make him a shiny new suit.
I want to go back to what Kristina said though about the powering up versus street level. I want, you hit on a word, consistency, and that's just what I want throughout. I don't want like one fight, this happens, he can bounce back. The other fight, he's like sewing up his wounds and he's concussed. I just want consistency.
I think also when we look at ways that he powered up in the original series, there's the adding of the suit, but there's also just him literally getting stronger and having experiences with his powers out in this world. So, I mean, I think there's things in the comics that we saw, like, he knows somebody's about to fire a gun because they take a little breath right before they pull the trigger or stuff like that, that I feel like he could power up even more just sort of by getting better at doing what he's been doing. Like this character, if he was blipped, is probably going to still be like 5 years into Daredeviling. If he didn't blip, he'll be like old man Daredevil at this point, with whatever continuity they try to give it. So like he should be much better with his senses. So like maybe not overhearing a conversation in Paris, but better at avoiding gunshots or better at predicting what people are about to do.
Not ending up in a dumpster.
Right, and his fighting ability improved throughout season 1 and season 2, and season 3 was at the bottom of the well basically, and he was recovering from his injuries, but he got better even after that, so just practice and time would also improve his abilities.
I think one of the things that we agreed that we would like to see as far as improving those abilities is maybe see, like in the comics, he had this little basement gym in his apartment.
Oh yeah, and give us some scenes of him training.
Yeah.
I want it.
Sort of like the basement of the church in season 3, but in his apartment.
Now it's in the brownstone.
We've seen him in Fogwells working out. So that's been kind of fun too.
Yeah, I love that. But now he needs his own space. Like he's Daredevil. He's fully Daredevil, I believe. And I just want the boxing ring down there. I want like a trapeze. I want it all.
That's true. Like in the comics, he had like the parallel bars and stuff in his home gym. Yeah.
Yeah. Doing gymnastics. Yeah.
Matt Murdock always sticks the landing. Something else I definitely want to see more of, because we kind of got away from it, is bring back the parkour. I want to see a lot more of that, because we kind of got away from it as the show went on. And yeah, I want to see some leveled up parkour. Again, I want to see it done by a human. I do not want to see it CGI'd. I think that's what was so cool about the sequences in, especially the parkour scene in season 1, was you could tell that's a guy, and we know that Charlie is very capable of doing a lot of it himself. And if they have to slip in a stunt person, do it, go for it, fine. But make it people,
Make it Chris Brewster.
Make it Chris Brewster. We want him
bring
back.
back the Brewster.
We'll add that to the campaign list. Bring back Chris Brewster. Who, I mean, for our listeners that aren't like that down in the weeds, that was Charlie's stuntman through all 3 seasons of Daredevil and the Defenders, who has gone off and had a fantastic career afterwards as well.
Yeah.
But he's always maintained in interviews that he'd love to work with Charlie anytime, if the timing works.
But I also feel, I mean, and that is like an offhanded, we love who was there involved before, but there were so many interviews when Daredevil came out where Charlie even talked about how he and Chris would coordinate the fights and everything to have that emotion in them and them all be real and very intentional. So I would have more faith that these fights are going to feel very real for the Daredevil that we're used to. And if they power it up, they power it up.
Yeah, but whoever is the new stunt double, if it's not Chris, I hope Charlie and he find the connection and that it works out well the way it did for the show.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that, because if you look at the MCU films in general, it seems like there were like 4 or 5 different stunt doubles for each actor. And I kind of like the fact that on Daredevil, it was Chris. I think there was one time he got injured and they had to bring someone else in, but he was the primary stunt person for Matt and Daredevil. And I think that actually brought something to it. It brought like a real sense that this was the same person, that this was the same human. It never felt like anyone was being swapped out. And I would kind of like to see that continue too.
And also because Charlie and Chris are very similar built and same size, same height. So they look very similar.
And I think this might be fun to talk about things that we kind of don't want to see as far as leveling up. And I remember, Rhi, you and I were talking offline at some point about Black Widow. And I adored that film. I thought it was fantastic. But I know, Rhi, one of the things that bothered you was the intense falling scene where she should have been dead. And, Yelena's falling and she should have been dead. And I feel that I don't want to see them go there. Any kind of superhuman abilities in that sense for Matt is just not in character. It's not really something that would feel consistent, and it just doesn't make sense.
Agreed. Yes.
Oh, and we just saw that in Hawkeye too. We just saw that where Kate Bishop should have been dead.
Yeah.
I love her. I do. I love her. And part of Kate's, she's like Matt. She gets back up, but she probably couldn't have gotten back up.
Everyone goes through that. It happens in all the movies, even the non-powered superheroes. They seem indestructible in the movies. So I don't know if MCU can get away from this.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I hope so. I mean, I hope that, I think that's just like this whole podcast is just us over and over again. We hope it's realistic for Daredevil. Have him swing, but show him training, have the swinging.
Yeah, and show him tired, show him recover from the hard fights.
Yeah.
Maybe don't spend too much time on it. Okay, but at least make it realistic.
Yeah, let's not go the movie route where he's like popping pills, like crunching pills in his teeth, like in the movie. Like he goes to his little medicine cabinet and he just has all these prescriptions. Maybe not that either.
I think one of the things that in our other conversations is that he is still blind.
Oh,
and
yes.
that is still a factor in what he can and can't do. But that there could be assistive technology, but he still can't read billboards or, pick the blue wire. He can't smell that one wire is blue, one's red.
Yeah, feel color. He doesn't feel color. He doesn't touch a computer screen to read the computer screen.
Unless it's a touch screen and, that's different.
Now that he's kind of in the big sandbox playing with the big well-known heroes, I think it would be super fun for him to come face to face with one of the really well-known heroes, for him to be standing in front of Falcon or, standing in front of Captain Marvel and go, sorry, I don't know who you are, because he can't know who they are. And I think that would be really fun, because the truth is, if you have not been in the same space with Matt Murdock, he's not going to recognize you, because there's no way he could recognize you. So I think that would be really fun. Who else? Oh gosh, who would it be fun for him to completely not recognize?
Oh, She-Hulk not being green.
She-Hulk not being green. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I feel like Carol Danvers probably will have a specific smell from going through the Earth's atmosphere.
Sure, but how would he know what that smells like?
Right, and he won't know what it is. I mean, that's what I think will be very, he'll know. He'll know a superhero is a superhero because they'll have on some weird clothes and
heartbeat would be different, perhaps.
Yeah, but to not be able to recognize them, I do want some of those awkward moments.
It would be great if it was someone who would be offended by that. I don't know. I could maybe him meeting Stephen Strange. Or Thor. Yeah, Thor would be completely offended. They'd have no idea who he was. So that could be fun.
But is that him not having any idea as Dee or Matt? Because if he's pretending not to be blind and
Yeah, as Dee. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Like him in the suit. meeting another superhero in the suit and having no idea who they are. I think that would be kind of hilarious.
That would be interesting to see. Yeah.
I just have hopes. I'm dumb hopeful. I said this on the last podcast. I'll just forever be dumb hopeful that they can pull all this off. So, how do you guys think they could level up the radar sense and how that is visually portrayed?
Well, just don't make it World of Fire again. Where's Christine? I'm sure she will have some thoughts about it.
I think that's the one area where all of Save Daredevil is like, we want everything to come back except that.
Yeah.
It just didn't work.
I mean, it was just confusing for a lot of fans.
Yeah.
Like, people think that that's what he sees. But like, no, his eyes don't work. He doesn't see anything. It's just the mental picture in his head.
Yeah. It worked for me for about a second. For like a hot second, you're like, oh, I get that. Oh, no, that's bad.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's the one thing that the movie did really well was sort of illustrating the senses.
The radar. Yeah.
Yeah. And that he can kind of level up with that. I mean, I don't care. I don't care if they don't give us any visual representation of how his senses work, but he can level up how he uses his senses.
Yeah, I think that's where it's important to fill the writer's room with blind and visually impaired staff, producers, writers, consultants, because I think all we can think about is from a seeing perspective anyway. And I think if you've watched, I don't know if any of you have watched the Apple show, See, season 1, season 2, they do a really good job of building a whole world around people who cannot see. So I think that's where hiring blind and visually impaired, will work.
Well, I mean, with Echo, they've gone with a lot of deaf consultants and writers.
Yeah, and I want it across the board. I want them not just on these shows. I want them to be on all the shows. Have the opportunity to be on all the shows because I think that perspective is important.
Absolutely. Yep. So let's hope that when we do get a solo project, there will be visually impaired people on the staff.
Definitely.
One way that I mean, going back to powering up, keeping to our discussion on topic, I think we all kind of are in agreement that one way that Matt Murdock could really power up is in the coffee department.
Oh, yeah.
Amen. I mean,
Definitely.
talk about the fact that in the comics, this guy, Matt got around. It was crazy. And now you have this show, which was fantastic and we love it. But for 3 seasons, we know that Matt got some 10 years ago in flashbacks. When he was with Claire, that was it. When he was with Claire, they made a point that he was sleeping on the couch. And when, Karen, he wouldn't go upstairs with her. Elektra, they never had a chance. They had these moments of tenderness where there was absolutely no way in heck that could happen. And all the other times they were mad at each other and not talking. Every other one of the Netflix heroes got some repeatedly, some with multiple partners. I mean, you're in trouble when the until very recently chaste monk is getting more action than you are. That's a problem. And it's kind of fun to have Matt being unlucky in love, but this is getting ridiculous. Yeah, we need to caffeinate Matt Murdock.
But that's not the reputation he has. Not even on the show. Like, if you talk to fans, you go, "Oh, look at him. He's with Claire in one scene, and then he's with Karen, and then there's Elektra in the second season." But nothing is actually happening, you guys. But that's the reputation he has, and that's what Foggy's also been talking about it, right? Oh, he used to have a girlfriend every month, a different girlfriend every month, and blah blah blah. And he's very famous with the girls, but that's just talk. I want some action now.
On the surface, it feels like he's been with a lot of people, but we got nothing.
Well, and I kind of got the feeling that in the show they sort of what Foggy always assumed was him being out with women was him going out and daredeviling or going out and, running around rooftops, even if he wasn't daredeviling, doing stuff like that. So now, it's out there and he is Daredevil, but yeah, he deserves some love.
Let's upgrade him in everything. Just like Charlie said in that interview at, what was it, SiriusXM? While they were interviewing him for Kin, and he said, the version that you'll see hopefully will be the upgraded version. So with the same foundation, but the upgraded. So let's upgrade all aspects of Matt's life.
There you go. Totally.
How about a cleaner alarm clock?
Aww.
That alarm clock is filthy.
Yeah, it needs to be cleaned. Yes.
But I think that is a tiny thing. Like, if you sanitize his life too much, it's gonna feel wrong. You can have a dirty alarm clock. I don't know. It just makes me kind of sad that if they're doing anything with him, they're going to be doing it on a soundstage in Atlanta and not on the streets of New York. So give him the dirty alarm clock. I'm vetoing the upgrading the alarm clock.
They actually did film some of Hawkeye in New York. So there's hope that they might do something in New York, because I agree. I think New York was a character in our show. And it would be a shame, to quote Vanessa Mariana, it would be a shame to see all that character scrubbed away. It would be nice to see New York still shine, because Matt is so tied to New York. He's talked about it being in his blood. And so it would be good to see that being represented positively. And it would also be nice for all the team members who are in New York to be able to go and try to see some filming going on too.
Yeah, so I have a thought. What do you guys think about powering up through Super Friends? Since he's already been Peter's attorney, even though he doesn't remember, we know that he represented Spider-Man. Who would you guys like to see him maybe have his backup, team up with, help out?
Well, he may not remember, but Peter knows that there's something
Yeah.
different about this blind lawyer. So after No Way Home, when he's all alone, maybe he is going to start looking at other local heroes, and maybe he'll find Matt.
That is the dream, right? Isn't that the dream?
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
Team Red 100%. Give me Matt and Peter, and then some Daredevil. I mean, not Daredevil. Deadpool.
Wade.
You
Team
throw
Red.
Wade in there for just to irritate Matt. I mean, just to give me
Well,
more
as-
irritated Matt faces.
As far as Marvel superheroes with secret identities, at this point, it's pretty much Peter and Matt, and that's it, right? So just
Matt's horrible at keeping his identity a secret.
and that's another thing. Oh my gosh. Okay. When they power him up, I don't want them to power him up in the sense of taking away his secret identity and just making him out as Daredevil, because I
That doesn't
know
work.
it doesn't work. The MCU is full of heroes where everyone knows who they are, and that's cool, and I like it, and I think it works. But this character, I don't think it works. I think the big thing about Matt is that Matt Murdock is not a cover. It is a very serious, important part of his life. Being a lawyer is very important to him. We've seen him try to give it up, and he can't. He goes back to it. So I think it would be a big mistake for them to take that away, and I hope they do not go in that direction.
Yeah, Matt and Dee Dee are one and the same. Just two aspects of the same personality.
So what if, I'm going to throw you guys another one. What if they power him up by introducing his twin brother, Mike?
No, please.
I'm hanging up right
Bye.
now. Goodbye.
Can I leave?
Wait, Shelby.
Thank
Shelby,
you for
I will,
listening to Talk Daredevil.
I will take this if they do it via reader.
Yeah.
Give
I mean, that's the way
me-
that's the way it happened. I mean, so
No.
If they want to do a what if episode and introduce Mike,
Yeah.
awesome. That's how
Sure.
they could do it.
25 minutes. That's it. Another show that I'm really looking forward to is Captain Marvel. No, Miss Marvel.
Ms. Marvel, yes.
And Miss Marvel in the comics she's an Inhuman, but rumors are that they're changing that for the show. So I'm curious. I'm very excited for that show, but I don't know how that's going to go about.
yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see what the world is after Miss Marvel, but also powering up the other villains, like the potential villains. So like there's speculation that we could get Stiltman and Armor Wars.
That's what I was reading your mind. I knew you were about to say Stiltman.
I don't know. Well, we do know of a villain at the very end of season 3 was Bullseye getting his power up. We saw Bullseye on the operating table. It was Dr. Ozawa, so that was kind of cool. And so if we do get Bullseye back, he should be powered up, which should be interesting. I hope that they give him a suit that isn't super goofy. But again, if Ryan is behind it, I feel like we'll be okay.
I mean, and Eric Olson was, he was planning for him to come back in season 5, but season 4 was supposed to be what?
Typhoid Mary.
Typhoid. I'm like,
Mhm.
and Melvin Potter and Typhoid Mary.
Stephen DeKnight, recently someone asked him, they gave him a choice of 3 villains and said, who would you rather bring into the fold for Daredevil? And he ignored all of the choices and said, Melvin Potter. He really wanted to bring a Gladiator there, and he really wanted Matt Gerald to be able to do it. So I would love to see that. I think that would be super fun.
And Matt Gerald, I think he replied to that tweet.
He did.
Yeah,
he said, bring it on.
Very positive. Yeah.
I mean, who knows what happened to Betsy? What if Betsy blipped? If Betsy blipped, Melvin could
Can
have
you
lost
imagine
his crown.
Melvin flipped.
Yeah.
Melvin flipped. Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice.
And I mean, and I love the Typhoid Mary option. Like, I know we had a version of Typhoid Mary in Iron Fist, and I loved that version of Typhoid Mary.
She
could
was one of
see
my
that-
favorite parts of Iron Fist season 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that going so many places. Like, they never really got into the Typhoid Mary personality at all. They just sort of like came to the point that it existed.
Yeah.
And I feel like they left so many things on the table that could be explored, and Matt could get caffeinated and have a villain all in one villain. I really love the idea of a Typhoid Mary storyline. And I hate, that was something we were supposed to get in season 4. And I just will forever be bitter that we didn't get that.
I know. She could have set his hair on fire.
My gosh, stop. That is like one of the scariest and like disturbing parts of those comic books, because I love that series and I love that book, and it always terrifies me every time I read it, because Matt is in so much pain during that whole run. He is, he's in a world of pain.
But I loved, I'm blanking on the actress's name now. Oh my gosh. Someone help me.
Alice
Eve.
Alice
Yes,
Eve.
thank you. I thought she was fantastic. She was also one of my favorite parts of that. I love that they had her singing the same song that she sang in the Daredevil comic, which was really a fun little bit. Personally, for me, when we were talking about consistency with powers, I really didn't appreciate in that comics run that he could not tell that was the same person. That bugged me, and so I'd have to have the writers really sell me on that.
But that was her superpower, because she did change with every switch.
And that's where, it was more than dissociative identity disorder. It was like
she walked,
an actual superpower of changing people.
Everything was, she changed on a fundamental level. And because he's blind, he can't see that it's the same person. So, it would have to be written well for it to be explained.
Can we not level him up by making his hair red? Because I know that's something else that a lot of fans were like, they tried it and it didn't work.
Yeah,
so can we just let go of that?
Well, they didn't do it in Spider-Man, so
that's
it's
true.
Not going to happen.
They did not.
Yeah, so I think we're past that. I think we know what he's going to look like as Matt Murdock.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, they let him grow his hair out a little bit.
Oh yeah, it was shorter. It didn't bug me.
It was
though.
very short.
So, any final thoughts, you guys, about how we'd like to see him level up?
But let him be more mature.
Okay.
More mature, confident, maybe even a little more cocky. Let him be funny. Let's show some of that sense of humor that he has in the comics. Let's see that.
Yeah, he's learned from his experiences. Yep.
Yes. And he's had a lot of experiences, so he should learn from them.
Let him have some money too. Let him not be broke. Can he just not be broke?
I kind of like him being broke. It's such a
But let him
it's such a
charge
change.
for some of those cases. Don't be pro bono all the time. Like, you can't live like that.
If indeed we don't know if it's going to be Nelson, Murdock, and Page coming back, we really want it to be. So if it is them, Foggy was always about the making money. So I don't think that Foggy would let them just completely take every case for free. I have hope that at least Foggy would want them to pay their bills.
I assume in Spider-Man that Happy coordinated for Matt to be Peter's attorney. And I don't think Matt would have any problems taking money from Happy Hogan.
Yeah, there's some deep pockets there.
Maybe get paid.
Yeah, I mean, Stark Industries comes to you, wanting you to defend somebody.
And even if Matt has forgotten who's Peter Parker is, he still knows Happy, and he's still his lawyer because Happy did hire him, didn't he?
Did he?
Kind of.
Well, it was kind of implied when he was saying, you're going to need a really good lawyer. I'm a really good lawyer. It was kind of implied that that was going to happen. I think they were setting that up. We'll have to see if that actually plays out.
See, I kind of felt it was Matt being like, I don't defend people like you.
No, but he's there defending anyway. So
Like, I defend people like Peter. I'm
Yeah.
gonna touch his brick heading at his head, but I don't defend scuzzy corporate types like you.
All right. So it sounds like we're at a pretty good natural stopping place. So thank you so much for listening. And remember, you want to find us on social media. We are Renew Daredevil on Twitter. Everywhere else, pretty much, we are Save Daredevil. You can check out our website, savedaredevil.com. Thank you so much for listening. Be careful out there. And we can't wait to talk some more about Daredevil. So see you later.
bye.
Thank you for listening to Talk Daredevil, the official podcast of the Save Daredevil campaign. For more information on Save Daredevil, please visit our website at savedaredevil.com. Remember, Murdochs always get back up.